Hello fellow simmers, it's Samuel Beeman of BLS here, and today we're back again for another OpenRails video, or MSTS as some people like to look at it as. So, we're back on the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway add-on for MSTS, and basically, as the previous video stated, this wouldn't be the first and only video of my look at the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway add-on. So we're now looking at the route in a different light. It is set to summer and clear on the weather, so no snow because obviously we've got Christmas out the way now. And today we're going to be looking at the Class 25, 25059, which comes with the route as part of the route package. So first of all, I just want to point out that I do have a few gripes with this locomotive. First being, it is set as an air braked only loco. Now, this is a bit of an issue with OpenRails because OpenRails simulates both air and vacuum locomotives, and basically the coaching stock that comes with the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway is vacuum braked. But with this loco being air braked, it's not actually compatible with its own stock in a sense, which really kind of sucks, and it does kind of make me think, why did they do this? You know, it's like, why didn't they set this locomotive to be vacuum if the stock is vacuum? It would make sense, you know. So if you're doing a scenario with this on this route in OpenRails, it doesn't actually work properly because as soon as you couple up to the coaching stock, you can't move. So yeah, that is probably one of the most annoying factors about this 25. So I have to, well, I've had to in a sense make my own consist as seen here. So we've got the 25 with some making tracks suburban coaches from, I believe, the London South East DLC route. And yeah, basically, obviously them coaches are set to air brake, so the 25 will be able to haul these. But you know, again, you know, it's just one of the main gripes and gears I have with this. But it's not the only gripe I have with this. So, if we go and have a look into the cab now, if I press number 1 to enter the cab view, we can see here that the cab is actually meant for a 25/3 variant, which is just yet again another problem with this locomotive. So as you can see, we've got the 3 big windows at the front instead of, well, the small window which this locomotive is modelled on, which is a 25/1, I believe. So the cab view is completely inaccurate for this locomotive type. And the third gripe I have with this, so I've got 3 gripes with this, is the horn. Now if you press the horn, you'll notice that it has a 25/3 or 25/2 variant of horn, which is the peacock horns, as I like to call them, because these horns were part of the new batch of 25s which were rebuilt off of the original batch. So they had slight different modifications to the horns, and the overall body was completely different, hence, you know, the big window variants of the 25s. So yeah, both horns are on because it has got 2 horns. It's got a horn on the B key as well, but again, you know, this is a 25/3 horn. Another thing that is a shame is the idle sound. So you'll notice you can hear birds sort of chirping. This isn't actually part of the route. This isn't a route sort of scenery recording. This isn't a route ambient sound. This is actually within the idle sound. So we've got birds chirping in the idle sound, which is a bit annoying. And you can also hear a slight brake hiss within the idle as well, that keeps repeating. Just thought I'll be quiet there just so you guys can sort of take in the idle and have a listen to it for yourselves, but you'll notice it. So yeah, apart from those things, the model itself, yeah, I mean, it's not the best 25 model I've seen for MSTS by any means. There is better ones available, which I will cover in another video at some point on, you know, as I go through all the DLC collection that I have. So yeah, it's not the best, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. But when it comes to engine revs and the actual, you know, thrash itself, it is actually pretty good. So it sounds good in that respect. So it does have some pros to its cons. But unfortunately, this locomotive has more cons than pros. But yeah. Anyhow, let's get ourselves moving. So we want to put our reverser into forward. I'll bring up my speed hub there. We'll release our brake and we'll get moving down towards Keighley. I haven't actually initialised the brakes just yet. Okay, you know what we're going to do before I initialise the brakes? I'm just going to have a brief look around Oxenhope. So this is Oxenhope, which is very easily recognisable. The actual station assets themselves and buildings are actually really well done, to be fair. That's one thing I will say about this route, is they have got the station models and assets to a T. All of the locations are easily recognisable. We are on the move now, which is good to see. Our brakes have finally released, obviously. And yeah, you know, the scenery for this route honestly isn't that bad. I mean, it's a bit dated and a bit old, but it's not too bad. So, if any of you haven't seen my previous video on this DLC, I will link it in the description of the video so you guys can go and see that as well. So you can see sort of my first look at the route. So if you want to go back and have a look at the Santa special run I did with the WD, then be my guest and click the link in the description. But I did mention something within the previous look at of this route, which does still annoy me, is the fact of the speed limits. So you would notice that the limit is 80 mile an hour. This is like that and capped throughout the entirety of this route. Which is a shame because, you know, that's kind of removing the simulation aspect of this route. It doesn't really give it a very good simulation. So although the route looks very nice, it doesn't have the speed limits sorted out. And I think that's to do with the fact that this route itself was actually originally intended for a backdated route, sort of a 1950s to 60s route, which is actually included in this add-on. So you get two versions of this route. One which is based in the sort of late 50s, 60s, which runs from Keighley down to Queensbury. And obviously you've got this version which is the preserved line, which is sort of based sort of around about 2004. So it's not current day preserved era, as it were. Based a few years back. As obviously this game was produced in 2001, and obviously content for this game came out a few years later. Bit of a window hanging action there. You know, I probably picked the the boring section of the route where it's mostly downhill. Oh dear. Silly me. Should have picked the other way. But to be fair, I drove from Keighley to Oxenhope last time, so I wanted to kind of mix it up a little bit. So, another cool feature that I quite like about OpenRails is, obviously you see our view here of the cab interior and how we can sort of move up and down, look around and stuff like that. you can actually set the cab view back to the original MSTS viewpoint. If you press Control 1, as you can see, it puts it into the original view. So here we are at Haworth, or Hallworth, as some people will, you know, like to call it. It's a very interesting station. It's, as I say, it's all well represented. I'm liking all the difference in houses and stuff like that. And yeah, it's, as I say, easily recognisable. We've got like bits of stock, like static items, which are in the sidings, which sort of add to the detail. Looks a bit bland in the yard here. I would have liked to have seen more like scraps and, you know, clutter. But, you know, for what it is and for its time, this was the best thing we ever had. So, yeah. I believe it's all downhill this way as well. Oh dear. So we have got the head coat panel lights, which do work. So I'll turn those on. And we'll depart for our next scheduled stop. So yeah, as you heard from there, that departure, the sounds on the 25, as in revs of the engine, are actually not that bad. It's not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, the main downfall for it is obviously the idle sound, the fact that you can hear that little brake hiss and the birds in the background. But one thing I do know about this game is that it is relatively easy to swap sound files out. So if you have got another 25 that you own, or you've got a 25 from an add-on and you prefer the sounds of that 25 from that particular add-on, it is relatively straightforward to change the sounds within the Locomotive scripting, which I found out just recently. I mean, it does have an addictive beat, though. You know, the idle has that addictive salsa beat that everybody loves. But as I say, it's just a shame about the leakage of ambient sounds within the idle. Oh god, tree. Ugh. We've been killed by a tree. So that just occurred to me, we are in our next station and I pretty much overshot it. Although actually... okay. I haven't learned this route, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologise for my bad driving. Dear oh dear. Okay, right. Well, we need to move up from this because we can't have this. This is illegal. You can't park over a crossing. That's just, you know, it's just not. It's not good. That's. So I didn't actually overshot this or overshoot. There we are. Okay, so Oakworth. Oakworth, as Bernard Cribbin said in the Railway Children. Yeah, so Oakworth is obviously famous for being the main filming place for Railway Children. And it's been represented brilliantly. I think it is easily recognisable, just like all the other locations. We've got this coal heap here, which kind of resembles the scene where I can't remember the boy's name now, but he went and stole the coal from the pile. Yeah, it is absolutely, you know, for its time, this would have been absolutely fantastic, modelling wise. But yeah, it's dated now, and I mean, to be fair, if I was buying this back in the day, I would like it, I would enjoy it, but the main thing that would really irritate me is the speed limit. And I know I keep going back to that, but it is rather irritating. So how I'm playing this game right now is I'm using a software called OpenRails, which obviously I mentioned at the beginning of the video. I'm just briefing anyone who hasn't watched my OpenRails series just far. So OpenRails is, in a sense, a remastered, revamped, glorified MSTS, which allows MSTS to be played on newer PCs. And you can get this for free. It's free on the internet. You just type in the OpenRails into Google and the website will come up with a download link. And one of the really great things about OpenRails is the fact that it has multiplayer. So you can, in a sense, play your old MSTS add-ons or favourite routes from MSTS with your friends via IP addresses. I will show you this eventually. Me and Dan have already said that we're going to do a video on the OpenRails multiplayer at some point in the future. Oh, it's a signal now. Yes, we can go straight down. We don't need to go into that road because we're not passing anything. So, but yeah, so that is one thing that we are going to do eventually, is do a video on the multiplayer aspect of OpenRails, just to show you guys what it's all about and share our thoughts and opinions on the multiplayer itself. So we are currently approaching, I'm going to get this right this time, Daneham's Halt, which is, it's not Danham's because I called it Danham's last time, which is basically a request stop, which we're not going to stop at, but you know, you guys can see it as we pass by. Very nice little hole. I must admit, this is a challenging route to drive in this direction because it's mostly downhill, so you have to really sort of mess around with the brakes. And to be honest, the keyboard controls within this game I find are quite slow. They should be a little bit more sensitive, so trying to drive trains from the keyboard is not recommended in this game. You're much better off driving it in the cab, as you actually get better control of the locomotive when you're driving from the cab. Well, you wouldn't really get much thrash in this direction, would you? If you're, I mean, I've never visited the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway in real life. It is a route, or railway even, that I really would like to visit one day. It's definitely on my list to do, especially given that it's the mainstay of like the Railway Children, where it was filmed. But I must admit, in this direction, you wouldn't really get much of a noise, would you? So, it's basically entirely uphill from Keighley to Oxenhoe. Another thing about this route which is a shame, I think, is the fact that we don't actually have any whistle boards. Which is a shame because, you know, whistle boards are quite a vital part for a heritage railway. And unfortunately, we don't really have it, and I'm overshooting this. And the brakes aren't very responsive on this 25, I must admit. No, still, at least we stopped in the station. This is Ingro West. Here we are. At Ingro Tunnel. But yeah, it's nice to see the route in its sort of natural look, because obviously it was like snowy last time we looked at this. But to see it like this, it's nice to see. You get to see all the detail, you get to see the route for what it is. So yeah, Ingro West. One thing I do find that's quite funny about this is, so this is like the railway exhibition shed, but instead of actually putting an interior on this, it's literally just a photo, so you can see the chap there on with a stool and a guy just stood there. But yeah, you can see it's just sort of photo textured the entrance on there, which I mean, it's okay, but I mean, for its time, you would have thought that that's wicked, but nowadays, yeah, that's a bit lackluster, isn't it? But it's unfair to really, you know, slate it, because this was made in the early 2000s, and for the early 2000s, this route, as in detail-wise, is very, very good. I will try and give it some thrash, because I know that we are downhill. There you go, guys, there is your thrash. So I did get to thrash it in this, which is good. So, yeah, the sounds are not too bad, all things considered. They still are better than the dovetail game sound of the 25, because those are absolutely horrendous. So, you know, it is quite funny to see that something from 2004 sounds better than the, I would say, current Class 25, which has been seen in Train Simulator Classic. It's nice and responsive as well, the sound set with the throttle as well. It's very responsive, which is good. It's transitioned pretty good, pretty good. So it's just getting used to driving this, really, because it's very different. It feels very different. see here, I've got a lot more control within the cab, although yeah, driving something from the cab, you get a lot more control. That's one thing I will say about this, is it is recommended to drive locos from the cab in OpenRails. Better control. So usually you would go about 10 miles an hour into here, to Keighley itself. There we go, I'm quite proud of that stop. Yep, we're all in. Fantastic. So this is Keighley, which is represented very nicely. Definitely looks like the headquarters of the railway. So the models do look pretty good, like, you know, you can tell the locations, you can tell what they are or what they're meant to be. Obviously texturing is never going to be like today's standards. It's quite, you know, bland in some places, but yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, to be fair, the ground textures are worse than the buildings, which, you know, it's very interesting to see that it's like, you know, that's one thing I will say about MSTS, is you find that the actual scenery items themselves actually have better textures than the actual ground textures, which is rather bizarre. It gives that really weird effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to uncouple this Class 25 and run it to the head shunt. So if I get up my F9 HUD, which is here, as you can see here, we've got the consist, so we can uncouple, which is 0 to 4, which is the 25. That is now successfully uncoupled. So initialize our brakes, so put the hoses on in a sense. And we're ready to move off. And there you have it, guys, and this is where we're going to end our video. So I hope you enjoyed my run of the Class 25 from Oxenhope to Keighley. I will be changing the sounds on this 25 to have a better sound set, so it's not the 25/3 horns, etc. And I will be changing the cab on it as well, as like a little personal mod for me. But yeah, so personal opinions, it's all right. It's inaccurate. Let's put it that way. I can't, say anything else. That the sounds for this particular locomotive are wrong, and the model is not the best model out there of a 25 for MSTS. But nevertheless, it's not the worst sound set I've heard. Obviously, that's still, the DTG still have the crown for that. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Let me know in the comments if there is any train simulator add-on you would like me to review or have a look at. And, if you ever find any or have any for sale, or know anywhere that has a couple of train sim add-ons for sale, send us a message and just say, it's here, and I'll have a look into it. So thank you for watching, guys. This has been Samuel Beeman of BLS. Comment, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in another OpenRails MSTS video. Goodbye for now.